Hello, welcome to my Student Innovation Project pitch about an educational game called Die-A-Beetees. I would like to start off with a story. Imagine a 30-year-old healthy woman who starts to experience muscle achiness, nausea, and tiredness. She thinks it's the flu and it will pass in a week or two. A week and a half later, she gets short of breath going from the car to the front door, just 100 feet away from each other. This shortness of breath hits her so hard that she has to stop to catch her breath. It was that point she decides to go to the doctor and is immediately told to go to the hospital as she isn't just short of breath, but hyperventilating. In just a few short hours, she goes from alert and awake to being unconscious and in the ICU. The next day, when she had regained consciousness, she is told she has type 1.5 diabetes, also known as latent autoimmune diabetes of adulthood. She is also told that what brought her into the hospital was something called ketoacidosis, meaning there was a high level of acids called ketones in the bloodstream and effectively poisoning her body. This 30-year-old woman was me 10 years ago. My name is Angela Robinson, and I am a student at University of Advancing Technologies, studying game programming. The personal story I just shared with you is my inspiration to create a game that can educate patients and their support system, comprised of friends and family, about the different kinds of diabetes and its effects if not properly managed. Most people have heard about type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and some have even heard of a third kind called gestational diabetes, which can occur when a woman is pregnant. However, most people have not heard of the other three types of rare diabetes. LADA, which I mentioned earlier, and the type that I have. MODY, maturity onset diabetes of the young. And NDM, neonatal diabetes mellitus. Due to the rareness of these other types, many diabetics can be misdiagnosed, and treatment is not optimal. The education patients are encouraged to take, once diagnosed, is a short course on how to keep track of your blood sugar and eat healthy. Many diabetics take their treatment plan as a hard guideline, but don't realize how diet and exercise can affect their blood sugar and how they can adjust their treatment as needed. What they aren't told is that since they only see their doctors 3 or 4 times a year, it's on them to keep up with their diabetic education, and if there are any new treatments available or advertised, to ask their doctor about. My project, Die-A-Beetees, a diabetic education game, is to help people with diabetes in their support system understand the disease that they know what to talk to their doctors about and how to better manage it. You might say, I can do a Google search and find lots of white papers out there to educate myself with. Or, I can find plenty of apps on the App Store that help me manage my diabetes. This may be true, but how much fun is it to just read the white papers and get lost in the jungle of medical verbiage? How much do you truly learn about the disease with the apps that keep track of your blood sugar and A1C stats that you share with your doctor? Do you really know what that information is that your doctor's looking at and what it means? I have an Android phone, and when I did a search for diabetes on Google Play, I found at least 250 apps out there that could help me manage my diabetes. There are only a few games on there that make learning about the disease and managing it fun, per se, at least for children from the ages of 6 to 12. Jerry the Bear is one such example. With this app, children with type 1 diabetes can learn about carb counting, how important it is to measure out their insulin, and even buy a 3D bear that can link with the app via Bluetooth. For children that are a little older or like to play something a little different, they could download Mission Diabetes. This game is a 2D pixel scrolling game, much like Nintendo Super Mario Bros. This is where you run through a level and navigate the terrain to avoid bad obstacles. The mushrooms that we saw in Super Mario Bros. Are now hamburgers, cakes, and hard candies. Coins are now turned into healthy food and snacks. As you pick up the healthy food, your blood sugar goes down. if you run into a non-healthy food, your blood sugar goes up. There is another game out there called Coco's Cove. It does target type 2 diabetes. This game seemed to be a cross between Super Mario Bros. And Donkey Kong. If you didn't read the description of the game, you wouldn't really know that the monkey you take control of has type 2 diabetes. The only clue that you have that the monkey has this disease is that when his sugar gets too high or too low, it's harder for you to move the character around. He gets tired and sluggish until he's fed the proper food. Although these apps would be good for children, primarily with type 1 diabetes, these apps don't target anyone living with any of the other 5 types of diabetes. I feel it is just important for someone with type 2 diabetes and the other types to learn about the basics of the disease and how to manage it, as it is for a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. That is where my game comes into play. The game I have created is a digital tabletop board game. The board can be set with a specific pattern, or it can be randomly generated and populated with different information about diabetes. You have a character to move along on the board pattern. When you finish the pattern on the board, you are rewarded with digital coin that can be used in a digital store. The store will have other characters you can download and use, as well as other board patterns. What I have shown here are screenshots of a quick mock-up of visuals for the game. The options menu on the left, where the player can choose their main board layout and character. In the middle picture is a screen capture of the mini game where I'm currently using cylinders, spheres, and capsules in place of the food, meds, and exercise icons the player would interact with. The player would drag them to the food tray where it is determined how much your blood sugar levels are adjusted and shown. On the right, I have an example board pattern of a star. Each spot on the pattern will have information about diabetes. This information can be definitions of common diabetes terms, symptoms that can occur when sugars are high or low, good and bad habits, information about effects from the different foods and meds, and even obstacle questions, where you are presented with a situation and you decide what to do. Here, I have a basic flowchart for the game. When the user checks their blood sugar, you'll start up the game and enter the number that the blood sugar is at. If you're a member of the support system or you just want to play, you can choose to randomly get a beginning blood sugar level generated. You're giving one roll of die each time you input or generate a blood sugar level. Once the number is input, it gets checked against the ideal range. If the levels are within range, you are given extra rolls to move your character along the board. If your levels are not within range, a minigame opens giving you a chance to get it within range. The minigame is a simple screen that shows your blood sugar level, and you are given 30 seconds to 3 minutes to get into the desired range. The time limit depends on how close you are to the desired range. The next step is progressing on the board. You roll the die and move your character forward, at which point the information that is included is in the spot your character lands on is what you are shown. To further show how I'm going to implement this game, I have a UML diagram showing some starter scripts. The first script that is listed is for the minigame, where I project that this script will keep track of the game objects that will be used for the player to interact with, as well as a timer for how long the minigame will last. The blood sugar field would be brought over from the input. Next, I have the player character script, which keeps track of the board space that the piece is on and will move the character after a die roll. The game board script will generate a random board, save any patterns that are made. It will also have the information of default patterns that can be used for boards. The options menu script is information that will be held in player preferences. And the shop script will keep track of the available boards to use, the boards that are already bought from this player, and the amount of coin that they have. So by creating this game that can be used for not only children with type 1 diabetes, but all patients of diabetes, I believe that I can bridge the gap and make education of this disease a fun and interactive way of learning for all ages and diagnosis. I want to thank you for listening and watching my Student Innovation Project pitch, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comments below. Thank you.